I'm not sure if I want to live forever. I don't know about you, but clearly those in power want to stay in power forever. And they are showing no signs of aging. So, is that the next breakthrough now? Let's open it up to our guest now. Joining us is Kumar Bagdodia. He is the neuroscientist, founder of Hale Healthy Aging and Longevity Enhancement. Also with us is Max Kushner. He's the co-founder and chief scientist officer at Sova Health, India's first full-stack gut health platform. Hello, gentlemen, to both of you. Let me go to Kumar first. Kumar, you do stuff like that for people. You do analysis, you understand from their brain, from their other body markers to say how long they will live, what are the ways in which you can make them live longer. So this is not science fiction, right? I just want to get your first comment here. When the most powerful leaders are saying, well, 70 is just a baby, you're going to live till 150. This is actually true. They just might.
Of course. First of all, Sonal, thank you for having me on the show. I wouldn't go so far about talking about immortality, but definitely extending your lifespan and health span along with it is a reality now. I think, in the last few years, we've given too much credence to this word longevity. And, incidents like what you are showing right now with these three very powerful and aging world leaders brings to, to the
Not
fore this
aging world
concept of living
leaders.
long.
They are showing no signs.
But look at it this way. When the first pacemaker was installed in somebody's heart, that was in the 1950s. That was, in my view, a longevity moment, way ahead of what we are talking about right now, where you were allowing a foreign mechanical object in your heart to ensure that you lived longer. So now, 60, 65 years later, if you're talking about artificial organs, synthetic blood, and several other path-breaking technologies to, again, give another maybe 50, 60, 70 years, I'm not surprised.
Not surprised. So you're saying it's pretty doable. Let me bring in somebody who doesn't think it's very doable. Max, you are not very convinced on all this tech and science that is really going and doing the rounds. There are, of course, ethical questions. We'll park that for later. I don't want to get into that just yet. I want to talk about pure science and say, is this possible in today's day and age? We have a couple of techniques available, right? And I'll request the producers to sort of pop those graphics up on the screen as well. There's something called organ transplantation and regeneration. There is now cellular reprogramming that's available. There are anti-aging drugs. There are gene therapy, CRISPR as it's been called, in very advanced stages as well. With so much of research and resources across the globe going into longevity, why are you not convinced that this could just be a reality?
Hey, Sonal, thank you for having me, first of all. Very happy to be here today. Second to say is, first of all, I'm very optimistic about us actually solving death as a problem. I think that the consensus in the scientific community today becomes to be that aging is a disease. And once you understand the mechanisms of this disease, then potentially you can solve it, just like any other disease.
Hold on, Max. You said aging is a disease?
Aging is a disease.
Aging is the most natural thing that humans go through.
But if you think of it, nobody dies from aging, right? People die from heart attacks or from cancer or from diabetes, but they never die from old age, right? Something in the body breaks eventually. And this is why aging is becoming a paradigm. So, and I think that we are developing this amazing ability to think systemically. Instead of focusing on any single organ in the body or any single system, we are able to start answering very complicated questions with complicated but right answers, right? So technology like genomic sequencing, microbiome science, metabolomics, right? The science of every metabolite in the body. And there's more of those coming in. Once those are integrated together into a singular system, then we can definitely start seeing, and we're already seeing, some of the benefits of that approach, because complicated questions require complicated answers. Where I'm a bit more pessimistic about specific technology solving these problems, right? Because well, we still can't transplant a brain, right? So what happens then? Will you actually become immortal? So I think that is going to be a very interesting 10, 20, 25 years where we would definitely see massive increases in health span. Because some of the problems that plague our society, like metabolic diseases, for example, will be solved permanently. We'll have cure for diabetes, for example. But I think that to achieve immortality, it's probably possible, but it will happen at a later stage.
All right then.
The
So,
combination of
fair to
technologies, right?
say, so is it fair to say, Kumar, and come in here, that if GLP-1 drugs is the biggest story, perhaps the biggest medical revolution of our times, the next big GLP moment would be in longevity. So I'm trying to understand from you, which is going to be that science that takes us into that living till 120, 150 conversation, amongst all the 5 that I've mentioned and are popping on the screen as well.
I would place my bet on one of the 5 which you've got on your screen, which is AI and CRISPR. Really helping with gene editing. That would be one of my top picks. And the second one, which is not on your screen, is we're already seeing huge strides being made in artificial hearts, artificial kidneys, artificial lungs, and believe it or not, synthetic blood. Now, when you have these 3, the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, and your blood being sorted on demand at scale, what does that mean for some of the top killers today? What does it mean for diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer? Phenomenal, any cardiovascular disease. So at one shot, just with these 3 or 4 technologies and with CRISPR, gene editing, and AI playing a massive role in developing new drugs, new molecule, which can be customized to people and available to just about anyone, of course, over a period of time. I think these things will come together for a very, very powerful and potent combination.
But
I
not,
must also,
but not available to everyone, right, Kumar? This is going to be
well,
available to the most powerful and perhaps the most connected, perhaps the ones with the maximum bank balance. This is not a tech that will be available for all.
Well, initially that might be the case, but as with most technologies, once you reach an inflection point in terms of scale and costs, I think they will find more widespread adoption. I also want to say something, Sonal. I believe we are living in a golden era when it comes to longevity, and here's why. On one hand, we've got this amazing future which is being dictated by technology. And on the other hand, we still live in a present where we have access to ancient wisdom with therapies determined by Ayurveda, natural healing. And I think when both of those 2 come together, you've got a
that I
very,
agree.
very powerful combination.
That I agree. That I agree. We need a wholesome knowledge to actually come into play. But Max, some of the viewers watching this right now must be wondering, what is this CRISPR? What are these gene therapies that these guys and these science nerds are really talking about? Could you decode it in simple language, which you do so well, about what does this mean? What are these therapies really doing? This entire science of anti-aging, what is it based on? Is it sort of making changes to my current DNA? Or is it ensuring that new stuff is injected in my body? What is this exactly?
Sure. So it's actually quite simple. Every living organism has DNA as the molecule that confers the information for how to build that organism, right? So for example, some of the things, some of the genes that we have, they've been conserved for millions and millions of years. One example is that a human being and a banana, they share 50% of their DNA, right? So if we compare the DNA sequence of myself, for example, and a banana, half of it will actually exactly match. Now,
Fascinating, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And DNA has only 4 letters, A, T, C, and G, and no spaces, no punctuation marks, just the sequence that confers all of this information, how to build a max or a sonal or a banana, right? And recently, in the last, let's say, 50 years, we've developed the ability to be able to read DNA, to take a DNA molecule and basically understand what is the order of the bases, this A, T, C, and G bases in that specific molecule. And in the last 10 or 12 years, we've actually gained the ability to do this at a massive scale.
This is the reason why, by the way, all the DNA found or any chair that the leaders touched or any cup that they took a sip in or even their poops are now being wrapped up and being taken away. This is why the world leaders don't want to leave behind any biometric, because that's like intelligence gold.
Absolutely. So the moment we know the sequence, we can actually infer some of the traits that the sequence will cause to. Everybody heard about mutations, right? So mutations, they can cause cancer, certain diseases. So if you can detect those mutations early, this is called the genetic testing. This is something that we already apply today, and we can come to the person and say, hey, you know, you're about to get this or that disease, be aware. Now, with CRISPR technology, we, if you think of it like a Word document, right? Now we can only we not can only read, but we can also write DNA. So we have copy paste abilities, we have cut abilities, we have editing abilities. Right now we can start editing this text, and that becomes very powerful because now we also have technologies to deliver this new DNA throughout the body in a relatively safe ways. So now we can start correcting these mutations, and there's been, over the last 5 or 6 years, there have been kids with some congenital conditions that were incurable before that got completely cured because of this technology. We're now using it to reprogram immune cells to attack cancer cells. It's called CAR T cell technology. It's already being employed. It's potentially a cure for many types of cancer, and so on and so forth. So we can basically start even making whole organisms that are completely synthetic, right? We can just write the DNA and make a synthetic bacteria. This was done a few years back in the US. So very, very exciting times ahead.
But tell me this, Max and Kumar, if you can add on to that as well. Is there a single human being currently on the planet who has used this? Or are we still talking about all these tests and this being a reality perhaps in the future and being tested only on animals so far?
Well, there are instances of very specific CRISPR and gene editing protocols being used for individuals with extremely rare genetic disorders. And those are few and far between. And yes, it is still out of reach of the average individual, not just because in terms of cost, but also the risk. So unless somebody's got a very highlighted risk factor, which poses a life threat, people are also averse to going for such procedures. But certainly I find in the last, I would say 12 to 18 months, that AI is actually helping this process become faster. So there are instances already, and especially with the younger children, where they are being given some of these gene editing programs just to help safeguard them from a really life-threatening or a debilitating disease.
Max?
Yeah, so I think that Kumar and nailed the nail on the head, basically, because there are some safety concerns in systemic delivery of these molecules, but with tissues like blood or immune cells, for example, these technologies are already FDA approved and used in tens of thousands of patients with cancer. CAR T cell is, I think, the most advanced example, where scientists would actually take immune cells from the patient and engineer them to attack the cancer of this patient specifically.
It actually happened in India as well.
Introduce them back.
Yes.
CAR T cells
very
are
successfully done, and by Indian doctors. They saved the life of a 9-year-old girl whose cancer had come back for the 3rd time, and they managed to cure her. And so that's been marvelous, really. So gene therapy has clearly worked. But in cancer cases, we are looking at gene therapy to actually reverse age. So let's now turn to the issues here, the very ethical questions. Everybody's already talking about how now you can customize, or what is the word there? Boutique your child. You can now pick what color of eyes you want, what kind of nose, what kind of features, in fact, not just physical features, brain development also, what will be the triggers or not. All of this is being discussed. Again, I want a quick fact check over here from Kumar. How far is it from actually happening, or is this still sort of limited to the labs so far?
Yeah, I have yet to see a successful case where all of this has been done. Some of these are certainly at advanced stages in different forms in various labs, not for a single individual as a whole where everything is sort of pre-programmed or let's say bioprogrammed. I don't think that's happening. But what is a real possibility, and I think very soon, in a matter of few years, you will have, is implantable devices in your brain. We already know of some very successful startups globally. Imagine the kind of abilities those give you in terms of cognitive abilities, consciousness, your ability to retain information, compute, your emotions, all of that. And I think that is going to be way more powerful, not just for disease reversal, but also for anybody wanting to live really long. The real bottleneck is not going to be your heart or your skin or your muscle. The real bottleneck is going to be your brain, your consciousness, your ability to be salient, at the
Can
age
I
of
just bring a
125.
balancing point of view here? While any scientist or anybody who understands this field very well, like Max and Kumar clearly do, when you talk to them, they'll say, oh, this is a marvelous innovation, look at the potential that it will bring, etc. The viewer right now is wondering, that's all that is left. There was one supercomputer that I had, which was my brain, and now that's also outsourced to a machine. So clearly there are those who are going to call it doomsday. Max, what's your opinion on this one?
From my experience, very limited experience in the field of ethics, I would say that the technology, whenever a new technology that's genuinely life-changing comes, it's only a question of when and how is it going to be used, but not a question of will it, right? So flying, I think, is the most common example, right? When we had the first airplanes, people said, oh, people are not meant to fly. We have birds for that, right? And look at us now. So will it be used for good or for evil? Probably for both.
Probably for both. So Kumar, what's your take here? How far should this go? This is the same debate as AI. How far should we go on to empower? I mean, I'm looking at it because, come to think of it, we still don't have so much of research when it comes to pregnancy in women. We still don't have so much of research when it comes to basic cough and cold on what these medicines are really doing to us. Isn't that, we still have such limited information when it comes to so many kinds of cancers that are really out there, right? So what are we spending our time, money and energy in living longer or really solving it for the masses? Like, this is such an elitist view at the end of the day, meant for clearly the leaders on our screens because they really care about it. But the countries they run, the people that they take care of, they don't care about how long they live. They want good quality of life today.
I think that's a very valid question, Sonal, and let me answer it from two perspectives. One, the need for self-preservation is innate to the human brain. Since time immemorial, that's what's driven all kinds of progress, the need to live longer. So whether it's vaccines, whether it's the pacemaker, whether it's medicines of any kind, we want to live longer. We want to have higher life expectancy. I agree with your question that yes, perhaps there is maybe a little bit of undue attention
Yes.
being given to longevity as as a science, if you can call it, to say how can some of the top people in the world live longer. But I would say it's just a matter of time where a lot of those sciences, perhaps currently being driven by the rich and the powerful, will ultimately find their way, trickle down to the, to the masses as well. So unless you have some Phillips, maybe driven by, power, maybe driven by ego, maybe driven by a desire to be immortal or play God, whatever it is, ultimately that research dollars are being found in those labs and they will make their way. So I
Right.
wouldn't really paint it with that paintbrush to say
Yeah.
that, it is really just an ego trip. So I don't understand the quest for immortality.
Yeah.
I think that is not just medical science. One needs to delve into quantum
You need
physics
to
and,
be
the quantum
you need
realm
to
as
be the
well.
leader of some of the most powerful nations in the world to understand the rationale about it, perhaps, or be like back in the day. But talking about back in the day, Max, I don't know how familiar you are with the Indian context, but say, for example, my great-grandmom lived till about 108 very easily. There was a generation before, 2 generations before me perhaps, where the average age used to be that. Something happened in the middle. So a lot of people sort of watching this today would say, why not just go back to the basics, have a clean life? And that's what's really required. Not so much of time, money, and effort going into getting prebiotics, doing, pumping your cells with all kinds of therapies, just so that you can go on to have a longer life, younger life.
I think that's a great question. I actually know quite a lot about the Indian context. I've been here for the last 8 years, helping people, live healthier and longer, dealing with metabolic diseases and gut health issues, which is probably two most common ailments in India. Right? India is known to be the diabetes queen of the world, but actually conditions like IBS and IBD are almost 3 times as large in India as diabetes is, right? So most of
Yep.
us have some gut problems.
Yep.
And I think that the lifestyle that we're having today, living in a city, dealing with the air quality, dealing with the food quality, dealing with our own personal aspirations, where health is maybe top 3, but work is more important, right? And then we wake up in our 40s or 50s with several chronic conditions, saying, "Oh, what happened?"
Yeah.
So yes, it's a matter of choices, and if we live naturally somewhere and we eat perfectly every day, then probably we will live longer. But once we're honest with ourselves, we want to maintain a certain lifestyle that we already have. Most people are content living the way they are.
Yep.
And this is why it's really important to identify the gaps, especially in our nutrition early, and then plug those gaps either with food
Absolutely.
or with supplements, right? So that our body, and I think this is in relation to what Kumar said earlier. He said, "Oh, we're gonna live longer because we're gonna have heart replacements or limb replacements or blood replacements." So and that resonates with me. But I'm saying, why get to that? Why not prevent it from the first place? Why not have a machine at home that would
That's
tell
a
us, "Look,
that's a
today you need
great
this or that"?
thought. That's a great thought to wrap this conversation on. That why not? Why not clean it at the source? Why not clean it at the beginning? The question is how. What can I trust the vegetables that come to my house? Can I trust the air? Clearly can't. I can't stay in a bubble. I can't be like Brian Johnson and leave India or carry our air purifier with me
Yes.
everywhere. I can't trust the water. So there is really, and that's perhaps a story that we should pursue and do it in another episode. But for now, gentlemen, thank you both on this very, very fascinating chat. Kumar and Max both, thank you so much for joining us here on 5 Live.